it. I mean, we've already been shooting the shit already, but we can get into it. I met you through your son, Waylon. So I encourage everyone to go back, and we kind of already talked about how Waylon had been on, and it was one of the episodes that you did listen to was with Waylon, and he was such a fun, good guest. He's always a good time. We love having Waylon in, but I met you initially through Waylon. I think we had even maybe like in passing seen each other at banquets, maybe just like camping trips, that kind of a thing, like most friends do, meet kind of their parents and stuff like that. But Waylon also mentioned in that episode that he was on about Kids with Disabilities Adventures and told us all about that. And are you the founder? Or what would you...
We, as founders, me and my brother both is kind of what got this up and started when this whole thing took off. And again, it was 35 years ago, and me and my brother was introduced to, with kids with special needs, is when we were invited to come up and participate at Payson Lake with 16 kids that they invited up there to come up to Payson Lake to, at that time, it was the UN National Forest Service and the DWR, and what was going on is they were showcasing then these handicap bathrooms, ADA bathrooms that they'd put out in the forest for people with disabilities, and they invited us up there, me and my brother, to come participate as just sportsmen, and we went up and was involved with it, and they'd brought 16 kids there, and it was just a full-on take them fishing, teach them to fish, and one-on-one fishing, and then, some guys had brought up stuff, and we'd had a lunch, a picnic, and it was just fascinating to me, and it was just so, me and my brother were just overwhelmed at how awesome it was. And so, my brother's like, hey, why don't we just do this type of thing every Tuesday? Let's just make this a program where they, bring the kids and from the school districts and invite them to come participate, and we'll do a fishing day and a lunch. And so there was these guys out of this Twilla Wildlife Federation group, and they were part of it up there helping us. They're actually the ones who brought us up and introduced me and my brother to this. And at any rate, so we just started, we just made it a tradition. The second Tuesday of May, we started going up and doing these fishing events with these kids, and it grew and grew and grew and grew. And we went from 16 kids to hundreds to 500 to 700, and then we just outgrew Payson Lake, and we couldn't accommodate the kids and chairs and busing getting up Payson Canyon. It was just treacherous and scary, and no parking, nowhere to put these kids and whatever. And so from that point we moved it down to Salem Pond, and lo and behold, things worked out. I ended up working for Salem City 21 years ago, and so when we moved to there, then it was kind of awesome, because now I'm working for the city, and the city's hosting it, and we kept the Forest Service and the DWR and all the people was still there, that were participating. Back then we had Albertsons from Twilla was providing all the food for lunches and stuff, and it just grew and grew, and as you've seen, a month ago, last May 13th, we just had over 1,600 kids at this event in Salem. And, I thank you for coming and being there and seeing it firsthand. I mean, it's just amazing of how many kids are in your community out there that are in these special needs programs through these schools and districts. And there's a few private organizations that are there, but mainly they're just out of the school districts. And so
it is quite crazy to see the turnout, and I don't think people realize the numbers of the children just in our local area.
Yeah.
But I got to be there for that, and I got to bring my oldest Cooper, who you just kind of formally met again.
Yeah.
And it was so fun to get to watch you interact with everyone. I think everyone's so excited to see Mike. And if you guys aren't watching this, he's a big old tall guy. And as Waylon said, he's got tats and stuff, but he's a big old teddy bear. That's how Waylon was describing you. And I think everyone gets so excited to see you.
Yeah.
I would think it would be really fun for that audience too, because I would imagine you have a few people that
Yeah.
are with KWD Adventures that are listening to this, that are
Oh, yeah.
fans of Mike, and that you've done
Yeah.
something for them or just encourage
Yeah.
them to get outdoors. I think it would be kind of fun for them to get to know you just a little bit more
Yeah.
and to see how you got started into your adventures in being outdoors.
Yeah.
Do you remember like your first memory outdoors and how that all came to be?
Yeah. I mean, it's, how born and raised here in Utah, and I grew up in Spanish Fork, and, hunting was just part of what we all did. I mean, I can remember as a young youth, starting hunting pheasants, and pheasants was my go-to favorite thing in the world. I mean, it was like Christmas. Couldn't wait to go on the opening day of the pheasant hunt. And I raised my own Brittany Spaniels, and I had 10. I mean, I had my whole backyard of my parents was full of Brittany Spaniels. And I mean, I lived and breathed pheasant hunting,
Wow.
and you had to wait, till a certain age. I think it was 12 then. No, maybe it was older, to start upland game hunting. But I was introduced to hunting by my parents, my dad, and, started out pheasant hunting. And then we got into, big game hunting when you had to be 16 then, I believe.
Oh, wow.
And you had to wait to old enough to hunt deer. And so me and my brother, and my whole family were avid, outdoors hunting, fishing. I mean, you tell people about, you remember the opening day of fishing? They're like, what are you talking about? There used to be the opening day of fishing in Utah.
I
And
had no idea.
yeah, and you had to wait till it was like, I can't remember, it was like in May something, and all the lakes opened. And I mean, it was like a huge thing. And I
Oh
mean,
my gosh.
I spent my whole life at Schofield, and I mean, we was like, there was hundreds of people, and it was elbow to elbow fishing
I
for
can
the opening day of
imagine.
fishing. It's, and so I grew up in that era of just hunting and loved hunting in the outdoors, And so when me and my brother got to go be involved with these kids to participate, to teach them how to hunt, how to fish,
Mhm.
was just overwhelming, to teach a child how to fish and the reaction. Because, the majority of these kids have never caught a fish.
Mm.
They're just not out there. They, one or two, physical or whatever, not, they just, or just, they haven't had the resources or, the opportunity to go out. And so just my background, this, all that, hunting, I mean, I tell my grandkids now, I mean, back in the day, we used to get out of school for the deer hunt.
Yeah.
They're like, what?
It's a
And
big old
I mean, it was
holiday.
like a celebration. I mean, hunting was a celebration then.
Mm.
Now it's kind of weird. It's the back burner. People don't talk about it. Kids in school. And I asked my grandsons about how many of your friends hunt, and it's scary how many of them don't. They have no idea. They've never been fishing. They just
Mhm.
can't believe, hunting and this thing that we go out and we love and enjoy.
Yeah. It is interesting when I talk to my kids too. It's funny. Rivers came home the end of school. He had to write like a friend he wanted to invite to his birthday party. And it was funny that was how he described his friend. He's like, that's my only friend at school that I get to talk to about hunting because he hunts too and he gets it. Like,
Yeah.
and you're kind of like, oh, like, wow, out of your 5 friends,
Yeah.
only one other kid is actually familiar with it. And, hopefully I'm sure like your grandkids, he's kind of talking about and sharing stuff, and maybe it'll spark some kind of interest, but it
Yeah.
is definitely interesting.
It's scary that uh, we are losing that tradition and that thing. And it's just it's the times we live in. Everything's
Mm-hmm.
such at a fast pace, and things, and, and for opportunities for these kids to get out in these program or these things, to start out hunting and, drawing a tag or getting a tag, and things is, the best thing they ever done is, I mean, you can now start upland game. I mean, if you're 6 years old, 7 years old, and you can pass under safety, you can start upland game,
Mm-hmm.
and you got to wait till you're 12 now and you can go hunt big game. And so that's a huge improvement, And so, and I haven't heard that. I think hunting and reality is staying there. It's increasing. The numbers are increasing, and that's good. And you got to get these youth and these kids out there. It's I take my grandkids and the kids, his friends, and kids we take. I mean, I can think of all his. They don't participate hunting, and so taking them. They want to be, he wants me to help them, get them involved in whatever, and we've taken his friends as guests of ours to our family camping up Strawberry and taking them fishing, and they're just like, holy cow. So
That
it,
is cool that you're doing that outside of KWD too, that you're doing it with your
yeah,
grandkids.
yeah, it's important, having grandkids, and I started them. And Waylon probably talked about it in the podcast. I mean, my grandsons, there's no age limit in Nebraska for upland, and my grandkids started going out to Nebraska hunting wild turkeys, and they was 5 years old and 3 years old.
So
And they'd
cool.
jump up and sit in our lap in the blinds and pull the trigger, and we'd help them with the shotguns.
Yeah.
And so they started way, my grandboys started way early and out in Nebraska hunting wild turkeys. And now they follow our every footstep and hunt big game and everything with us. So,
wow, that's so cool. Is there a moment that you had with your kids taking them out hunting that was like a learning lesson? Can you think of a specific story where you learned maybe a good lesson in taking kids out? Because obviously now you're really good and you've got it down to a science, but I'm wondering if maybe your kids were a little bit of the guinea pigs and you learned some patience along the way. Or has Mike just always been super patient?
I think when you get involved into turkey hunting, you have to learn patience. That's probably the number one in turkey hunting is patience and learning to be patient.
Yeah.
And so, all my kids learned from right the minute they could set between my legs and how to hunt turkeys and how to call turkeys. And they've all learned to call and master, turkey calling and the calling and all that. And so, I've probably learned from taking my kids and my experience with my kids, patience. And that's rolled over now with these kids with special needs, because we've taken all different types of kids, from everything from Daishun to rare brain conditions to, cancer. And we've taken almost every realm of that's out there, and so you learn through that too, is, patience and working with them and being patient, And so, I guess to answer, my kids have taught me, patience, how to be patient, and, patience to tie a hook and teach them to tie a hook. And, and so that's probably the most thing that they've instilled in me is through teaching them, is learn to be patient.
Yeah. Isn't that funny that kids can be one of the biggest testers of patience, but also the biggest lesson in learning how to hone in your patience?
Exactly. Yeah.
So after this time frame, you end up kind of setting off on your own with your brother to do KWD.
So as this went along, so I guess it's a huge story. So we started up there on this fishing thing. And realistically, we didn't, at that point in time, there's a few guys in Spanish Fork that were sportsmen, interested in sportsmen and sportsman things, and things. And me and my brother were, involved. There's a group there, the older guys that are in town that I remember, I think they called it Sportsman Alliance or something. I don't know. There's a few guys that were concerned about things that were going on with sportsmen, and things were starting out there. And any rate, so it was kind of not really a organization, but just me and my brother just kept that fishing thing going. And then what happened, the wild turkeys came to Utah, same thing. And me and my brother had never been around a wild turkey in their entire life. And they, same thing, wanted us to come be involved in this wild turkey release in the 90s. First wild turkeys coming to Utah from Kansas to Utah for northern Utah. It was a huge thing.
You forget it wasn't that long ago.
Well, it was 30.
But I guess now it is.
It's a long time. It makes me, I sit there and like, holy cow, I'm getting, am I that old?
Yeah,
but I've been
I guess I am too.
When I sit and tell people, when they ask me, how long have you been doing this? And I say 35 years. And they're like, I'm like, yeah, 35 years I've been doing this, involved in this with kids and hunting. And So anyway, to get the story to where so we went on these first turkey releases in Diamond Fork and Howell Creek. First turkeys put in Utah. Okay. We got to go hold them, band them, let them go.
Wow.
I thought it was the coolest thing I'd ever seen in my life. Matter of fact, I took all the tom turkeys and I banded every single one of them with their bands upside down, just because I thought I'm going to do something, because I'm going to get, this is cool.
Yeah.
This is so cool. I mean, Diamond Fork's my backyard. I grew up there as a kid, deer hunting, fishing. This is cool. I mean, and so I got involved, and there's a handful of guys that were in the Turkey Federation, National Wild Turkey Federation. And they're like, hey, let's get this going in the Turkey Federation and do this thing. And everybody's like, you should be the president. Well, the next year I was the president.
Wow.
So I started, this is how the journey got started. So I became the National Wild Turkey Federation president. And I served as the president in Utah for 13 years. And I served on the board of directors another 6 years. So I was in the National Wild Turkey Federation for years. And all these turkeys that came to Utah in the northern, and I was a part of a lot of it, between the trapping trance and working with the DWR Forest Service and all that. And the funding and the fundraising to get all these turkeys here. At one point in time, we were in the hole $273,000 that we owed to the National Wild Turkey Federation for wild turkeys that came to Utah.
Wow.
And so through other means, and at that point in time, SFW was just launching. As I was, I was the Turkey Federation president, SFW was there. And so, me and my brother, just being who we were in sport, I think I've been on every committee that's ever been existed, and at any rate, we got involved both sides, in sports and fish and wildlife, right from the get-go of the starting of it. I was involved in it, and I was on the board of directors and served with them, and I was over with the Turkey Federation, and things got crazy and out of hand, and I ended up resigning from the National Wild Turkey Federation, and then I went all the way in with the sports and fish and wildlife. But as we were going along, doing all the things with the kids and all that, so we were with one point in time, we were with the National Wild Turkey Federation, and we moved over to SFW, and then we, same thing, working together, doing the whole thing and the fishing day and all that. And then 20 years ago, I told, told my brother, I says, God, we had to start taking some of these kids turkey. This is our favorite thing. And so then we started picking kids and taking them turkey hunting and doing that, and made that a tradition. And so we started picking one, and then two, then three, then four, then we started picking up more kids, and then taking a few kids deer hunting and different things. And so at the point in time, we were flying, we were with, sports and fish and wildlife. And then me and brother said, you know what, let's just go out on our own and do this. This is what we love. It's our passion. Let's go do this thing and get some people together that's in, that we know, that we trust, that we love, has the same passion. Let's get, Waylon, some of my closest friends, Don Willis, and some of these other guys that I know that have wanted to be a part and do this. Let's launch this thing, And so that's when we come up with the idea, and I said, let's go sit down and brainstorm, and we went and sit down and brainstorm, and we, what are we going to call it? What do you think? And what's going to be the logo? And the application for the 501c3 and the whole thing, and the state, and getting the EIN number and all that stuff. we just, thank goodness we had this Jordan Simons come along. And this guy was just amazing. We all sat in the room, and he had 2 laptops, 3 cell phones, and what do you want to call your thing? Well, how about kids with disabilities? Okay. I just bought 38 no-name names. You got it set. You did? Yep. Nice. You're already registered. Okay. What else you need? And we just hammered it out. And then finally, 7 months later, we finally got our approval, from the IRS to be tax exempt and whatnot. And so that rolls back to your date that you applied to your state. And so, so we just then we branched out on our own, and we got our board of directors and everything. We hold our board of directors meetings and do it, So now we're up and just, doing what we're doing for kids, and it's
Mm-hmm.
just on our own. And then we're not, and it's just, then you're not out there in the other, whatever the other group or you're participating in, you're not tied to that conflict or whatever. And so, and my true passion and my brothers have always been these kids, and taking them, and that's been our our bread and butter. I mean, we just love it. And I mean, you have to love it. You don't just go do this thing. I mean, none of us are paid.
Yeah.
We don't get a salary. None of us are on we don't get reimbursed for gas, nothing. I mean, it's on our own, and always has been. And so we thought, let's create this foundation and generate some money and have the means to do what we want to do with, the things we need for these kids. And we started it and done it, and it's doing really well. It's just growing, and it's just doing great. And I love it.
It's incredible to watch. Like I said, I gotta go to the fishing day.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because Waylon, I had no idea that you were behind the fishing day until Waylon came and recorded his podcast. And it's like one of those things, if you grew up in Utah County, it's something you've heard of or
Yeah.
maybe helped with at high school or something like that. So
Yeah.
all these years,
Yeah.
I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
And then, through Waylon and kind of watching his social media over the last few years, I've been able to see him taking the kids turkey hunting.
Yeah.
Is there a turkey hunt that stands out to you? I'm sure there's so many. But when you and I got to speak on the phone before I came to the fishing day, I was just like, I had chills every time you were telling me a story. But I think a lot of people don't maybe realize all the turkey hunting that you do and the kids that you're taking out.
It's so, man, I've literally, I mean, you got to roll this all the way back. I mean, it's so, when I started, the first kid I ever took, when we decided we were going to do it, we said, we were at the fishing day at Salem Pond, and there was great, gathering of guys there that we knew that were, again, SFW guys and whatnot. Always like, and one of the really good guys there that was on the committee, he goes, I know a kid that's on my UPS route, or a UPS driver. He's got a kid that's who you should take. And I'm like, wow, okay, let's do it. And this is all me. Let's do it. And so went and met this young man and met his father. Says, hey, we want to take this young man out on a turkey hunt, and it's going to be with Doug Miller. And when you say Doug Miller, people's like, who's Doug Miller? Well, Doug Miller was the voice of, BYU football. I mean, he was a sportscast, and he was the KSL outdoor, Doug Miller outdoor show.
Yeah. Local here to Utah.
Yeah.
It's like everyone stayed up on Saturday night to watch
Doug Miller.
You'd watch Doug Miller
and
special.
So that was my first experience. I mean, it was with Doug Miller, and the first kid I ever took.
Just like thrown right into it.
Yeah. So we went here in Payson Canyon and took this young boy out, and that was with Doug Miller. And so your question is, what's my favorite hunt? And I knew he was going to ask that. And the whole way over here, I'm trying to think which.
Your Rolodex.
And I have taken so many kids, like literally, we have taken so many kids, and I've started to forget their names, and and just the other day, when Adam, they did a show, Adam Eagle and them, they did a show off KSL, did a 30 turkeys, 30 something, 30 and 30. Mm-hmm. And they ran it on YouTube.
Cool.
And I watched it, and I was like, every one of them was.
Oh my
I was part of those.
Wow.
And I honestly, I was so naive. I just thought it was going to be 30 turkey hunts.
Yeah.
And it was 30 of our kids. They're all ours. So my favorite, that's hard. I have been on so many unbelievable, memorable, tearjerk. I mean, just the funnest hunts are the funnest kids and the awesome, parents. And
do you have one that stands out to you maybe when you first kind of began this, where you were like, okay, yeah, we're on to something?
So one of my first ones, Doug had passed away. The second hunt that I went to go with Doug, we went down here to Nephi. Doug couldn't even walk out of the truck. He couldn't even walk to the blind. And so, at any rate, this is kind of this. So that was like on a Saturday, Sunday. And I mean, Doug passed away like on Thursday or something like that. And so, and then our great friend Adam Meikle took over, started the show. So we've known Adam for 20 some odd years. At any rate, so some guys out of down St. George said, hey, there's a young boy down here in St. George. He had cancer, and they had to take all these bones out of his legs and re-put them in. Mm. And so his name was Christian. And so we took him down to do a harmony. And he got a shoot a turkey. He just was so scared to shoot the gun at him, like, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it, you can do it. He did it. Got this turkey, and he hadn't even shot. He wouldn't even shoot the gun prior. He practiced with his sisters, his parent. That was his one and only shot.
And he got
it. Then the cancer came back. And take his life. And it was so hard to go see him up to Ronald McDonald House. Oh, it just felt sad. He just was full of cancer. And he just had so much, he was such a good kid. And they thought they had all the cancer out. They missed some or something. It went up into him and took his life. And I don't know.
Yeah.
That wasn't a joyful one, but it was a memorable one. I was in my first 5 or 6 kids that I ever took was with Christian.
Wow.
And so that was tough.
Mm-hmm.
But
to be able to provide that memory.
Yeah, that's experience. What I think when I say the bet, man, it was so crazy. It was so fun. It's still out there on the video, and Eyes and That Are Blind. And Adam can hear me through the ear. He goes, shoot. And Adam's in the blind film. And he's trying to help Christian, and Christian hadn't even shot. He was so timid and scared to shoot the gun. He hadn't even, that was it. So that one shot was his turkey. He mm-hmm. got the turkey.
Wow.
And, wow. And then, it was just crazy. So it's just, that's a memorable one. Mm. There's thousands, there's 100. I didn't realize when I seen that 30, I was like, holy cow, how many kids have you taken and been turkey hunting? It's like, holy shit. We've taken a lot of kids. And there's countless of just stories of amazement, things happen. And, this thing, you just look at this year, we got 6 kids, 5 of them in wheelchairs. we got 6 kids, and we did it, and first we had 5, and by opening day, we had kids in Vernal and 4 here in Utah County.
Wow.
And we had to take one other, but there's this, I don't know, there's so many stories out there of kids we've taken, and just, it's hard to choose one that's your favorite. There's the ones that you remember like that. It's memorable. Mm-hmm. And then it sucks that, you have to go through that part. And we've had 2 or 3 we've had, that we've done and taken that they've no longer with us. And they've had conditions where we knew they, were terminal at the get-go when we met them. And then, later they passed away. But Christian was my first. And it was quick because we did the spring. And I remember he passed. It was just a few months later. It was just within a couple months that he ended up passing away.
And that was that the family that was recommended to you by someone?
Yeah.
How do you go about finding these kids? Sounds like there's some recommendations and some fillers.
all to this point, I mean, it's crazy because we get people that call us or, recommend, hey, we met this kid, we seen your thing on the show, that we have somebody. But the vast majority of them, we meet them right at the fishing day at Salem Pond. And I mean, it's the craziest stories you've ever, I mean, just literally walking up to a kid, a kid, and just your hair just stands up and you just feel it. And you walk up to him and start talking, and, hey, have you ever been hunting? You ever caught a fish? And it. And when you ask them and you say, have you ever been hunting? And, if they say yes, or, you're like, oh yeah, what are you hunting? And they tell you, and, you say, hey, what do you think about this? Or, do you think about going turkey hunting with us? And they're like, yeah, they always say yes. They're going to say yes. But, we that's where we always have found the majority of the kids is right there.
The fishing day.
At the fishing day. Just one-on-one, meeting them, asking them, and then going and finding their parent or getting hold of their parent, which is awkward and weird. And we've had one young gal that she called her mom right on the cell phone. And she's like, you're supposed to be fishing. What are you talking going on a turkey hunt, But so we a lot. Like this year, I asked, we got 3 kids right at the fishing day. Okay. But if you go to Kids With Disabilities Adventures.org to our website, and we have an application there. So people have seen us and things and jump on our website. And we've got 2 or 3 in there right now that have applied online through our application period. That right now we're working with one of them that's Down syndrome, that we're right now in the process of trying to get him to hunter safety and then place him in a hunt. Okay. But the majority are right there, hands-on people, like, and I'm the big culprit. I mean, I would give every kid on that shoreline a hunt if I could physically do it. Yeah. And so we get a lot of kids there. And then it was crazy. When working for the city, when I first started, I was working in roads and streets, and we're up working on the roads and street, and this kid come walking by, had a stack of DVDs. And I started talking with him, and I knew he, special needs, and that he'd told me that he was in special in that stuff. And I said, hey, would you guys go on a turkey hunt? He's like, yeah, and so it was an interesting conversation. I ended up calling his parents and, and
explaining who you are.
Did you meet my son? I said, yeah, I met your son walking down the sidewalk. And who are you? And what are you? And they go and now they go and research you. Then, they go and research you and find out who you are.
Yeah.
You type in my name, and lo and behold, what pops up is turkeys. Turkey hunts.
Yeah.
So they had seen it and said, oh, that's cool. And you've asked my boy. I'm like, yeah. So, but that's how we find a lot is word of mouth and, kids. And, that's the biggest thing is we like to find, kids right here in the community and, and it's like, or things, Kids with the Disabilities Adventures, we don't just, there's not a rule that, we take adults, we take adults. It's not just for kids. I get asked that occasionally, is it just for kids? And no, it's not just for kids. It's for adults and everybody, if there's got a special need or disability, we'll see what the circumstances are and see what we can do to, put out there. We've taken kids that are, 30 some odd years old with Down syndrome, and, they're on a 10, 12th grade level, and they're 30 something years old, Down syndrome, and taking them deer hunting and stuff. And so, but that's fun at the fishing day is finding kids there that you just meet. And there's a lot of memorable ones there that I've met and that I've asked right there on the shoreline that we've taken them, asked them right there and went and talked to their student aid or their teacher and, said, hey, can we, how could I get a hold of so-and-so's parents? They're like, why? When you tell them, it's kind of cool because there's one class there that comes there and this teacher's aide, she's introduced this to three individual kids that we've taken from their class. She comes right over and says, I think I got a kid that would be really interested. Cool. And so we've taken, that. But now too, again, with now, having our website and things and everything on there, and on the website, and an application and a donation page, and and so I we've there's people are seeing it and catching on to who we are through seeing us on KSL Outdoors, and then Instagram and things. And so people are and people are seeing interest, catching interest, and so they're going to our website, and it's awesome that they're actually applying and putting in their individuals, kids, or whoever.
That is cool. What does the process look like once they're picked?
So this is my number one. I could walk up to any of those kids on the shoreline, and they're going to say yes.
Yeah.
Okay. So the number one thing is we found in all these years of doing it, number one, you've got to get the blessing of the parents. That's number one.
Mm-hmm.
You got to explain to them what you're doing and what it requires and what it does, and and getting the blessing of the parents. And when I say that, it means yes, they support it, and yes, they'd like to go do it, and they'll give their child, or the authors that let's do this.
Yeah.
So then number two is the number one is we have to say, look, there's one thing. They have to pass hunter safety. There's no wiggle room around this. You've got to get through hunter safety to legally hunt. And, it's crazy I literally, with all the first kids that I ever said, they'd say, I don't think they can do it. And I'd say, no, I think you'd be surprised. No, I don't think so. And they literally, this is one of their biggest things. And it's one of the crazy is when they do it and get in there and, get that one-on-one working with either, us or them or the parent, or now they can do it online, which back then they never could. They had to physically go to classes, 6 classes, and do the class. Well, we had a guy there in Woodland Hills, Elk Ridge, was an instructor, and he was phenomenal. He was just phenomenal. And he would sit down and help these kids and tutor, and give them that special attention, and man, these kids they loved it. And I mean, all these kids to this date, they've all gotten through it. I mean, they have to. You got to be legal to hunt, and can't. And so, parents, hunter safety. From that, all the rest is downhill. Then, we're KWD. We're on. I mean, once we get the blessing from the parent, the hunt, the hunter's education. Again, we'll either get them a turkey tag over the counter, conservation, we'll make it happen. We'll get them a tag, a deer hunt, whatever that. And then from that point, we love to do our little Christmas thing where we take the kids and their families, and we take the kids to King's Camo, and these kids get decked out head to toe in camo. We purchase these kids shotguns. We get them dipped in their favorite color, from black ice coatings. Lee Meekum and his family's amazing. And he dips these kids' guns in their favorite color, and you would not believe how much that means to them. It's you don't know whether the hunt, the thing, but they're
getting tricked out.
They hand them their gun, and they go, "How did you know blue is my favorite color?" Oh, we just guessed. We've asked the parent.
Cool.
And so it's just so that's kind of number one's parents. You got to have them, and because the kids will always say yes. I mean, they want to go hunting or try it, and then once you do that, we just take over, make sure that we help them, assist them, get them through hunter safety, and then get him out there. And then we take them full on from that point out, target practicing, shooting and target practicing, and do all that with them and their parents that ride on deck with us. And we take them to do that. And then in the field we go, and out hunting we go. And
that's got to be pretty cool to watch the full circle of you getting those chills as you're walking by someone, to asking the parents, to actually getting everyone out in the blind. It has to be quite the accomplishment. And then getting a turkey.
I'll sit and tell people in Wayland, turkey hunting is when you know it and understand it and been there and done it. I mean, if I took myself out turkeying by myself, it's beyond difficult. Turkeys are just, incredibly smart, seeing and all that. Well, when we're taking all these kids, and we got cameras, we got family, we got We had an entourage one year up in Diamond Fork. We had 21 people up there.
Oh.
21 people out in this pashed fields and blinds. 21. And it's like,
Wow.
I tell that to people, they're like, nah. I'm like, no, it's serious. I mean, we try to take as many of the family members as we can and put
That's
them in
neat.
this right there with us in the blind or the tent, or we park them up on the hill where they can watch across with the binoculars with the other siblings. And
Oh, cool.
so we try to get as many there as we can,
Yeah.
out in the field.
Amazing. What do you think, like, I'm sure you've heard from the parents especially, and probably often the kids too, I would assume. Like, is there something that you hear over and over again that they say after the experience? Like a common denominator in it all?
You changed their life.
Wow.
Thank you so much for what you've done. You changed their life.
That gives me like literal chills listening
I
to that.
there's a oh you the stories, these kids. I mean, first when they tell you that they don't believe their child can do their hunter safety, that tells you where they're at physically or mentally. They don't think that they can get through that. So when you get them to that point and through that, and I always say this over and over, they get there, you give these kids just 1 ounce of confidence, it changes their whole life. And when you go with us and this group of guys and these people I have who, we're there for them, and we're their new best friend, and and you teach them, you show them, you show them that we're there for you, and no one is going to laugh. Everyone here is to help you make this successful. We're not gonna, if you shoot and miss, we're trying again.
Yeah.
If and they're like, and when the kids sense it, and their parents sense that this is just all there for them. It's not this, hey, we're going to go shoot the biggest turkey for the record. I mean, really, we're there for the experience. That turkey's a bonus.
Yeah.
If they get a turkey, that's a bonus. We're there for the companionship and be there as their friend and their companion and their mentor. That's what we're there for. If we get a turkey, that's great. It makes great television and all that. But, we're there to be these kids' friend and mentor, and, because when you go talk to these kids and their family, parent, I mean, these kids go to public school and education, they get tormented and bullied, and it's, it's horrible. And it takes their self-esteem. So when we come along and we throw that back in their self-esteem and this confidence and get them through this hunter safety and take them out shooting, and they're shooting these targets and they want to take them home, and we've had kids that take their targets and their whole bedroom's covered with these turkey and they they just they just love that you're out there with them, and they're getting that experience, and they're getting this confidence, and then passing their hunter safety, and so that's the greatest thing of all, is we're not there, and not to be brag, or, to this date, every child but one
Wow.
hasn't got a turkey.
Wow.
Now that child that didn't got like 7 or 8 opportunities.
Yeah.
Like literally, 7 or 8. But to this date, every child has got one. And hunting and deer hunting, we've been successful. And one year I took a couple of the cutest little twin girls you've ever seen in your entire life, and the one did get one, and the other sister, I can't remember, she missed her a couple opportunities and she didn't get one, and I said, I'm taking you back. And her dad says, no, you've done too much, you don't need it. I says, no, this ain't about, we're going to get her a turkey. That it means a lot to him, And we took her back the next spring, and she got one. And so, getting them and getting the turkey it's awesome. And like I say, it's part of the thing that makes that, but it's not that's the whole thing. You know what I'm saying? I mean, we're going to try our best, and we always tell them we'll put you'll get the opportunity, but if you miss, you miss, and we're all going to have fun, and we're not there to laugh at you and ridicule you. And, I've taken these kids, and I took one young boy that was legally blind, and, man, he missed like the first three turkeys. And I mean, it took literally an hour or more to get him calmed back down, and just, tears and crying. And he wanted to give up. And I'm like, no, you don't need to give up. Mark, you can do this. He's like, I can't. I'm like, yes, you can. Your dad's helping you. And they'd put a special bow, like a bow sight
Oh, okay.
on it, so his dad could look over his shoulder and tell him when they, and then he would pull the trigger. But his dad was looking over his shoulder through this bow sight. And lo and behold, the fourth try, he got one.
That's
Kid was
amazing.
legally blind.
Wow.
And so, it's we love them to be successful, and that is you. But it's not going to make or break the whole thing. We're there to enjoy them, and just, that's so funny. If you pull up 2 years ago and listen to Sawyer's interview, he got a turkey, and we and him did it's kind of like a podcast, but it was just an interview with this award co nominated us at KWD for a thing. And they did an interview with me and him, and they asked him his favorite part, and he says, my favorite part was hanging out in the blind.
Huh. Just that time spent.
That's what he said.
Yeah.
And you thought he's going to say, and he says, no, my favorite part was hanging out there in the blind with everybody.
Everybody. It sounds like you're giving them a safe space.
Yep.
That they haven't had, and also a safe space to kind of explore their confidence that they haven't been able to before.
Yep. Something that they may or thought was never possible. Never. I mean, these little twin girls that I took turkey hunting, their dad was avid hunter, had hunted big sheep and everything, but these two little girls had just had complications at birth. Just and they the end result, I mean, they just struggled learning a learning disability. And he so badly wanted those girls to hunt. And so when I told him I'd take these two little girls turkey hunting, he just couldn't believe it. And I said, no, they'll get through hunter safety. He says, I said, no, they will. And they both did, And so you get, family, parents, family that are out there hunting. And then we've taken families that are zero, don't come from the hunting background at all. And they're like, yeah, I don't know,
sure.
But, let me think about it, It's, it's kind of amazing. Parents will now, on today's technique, they'll pull up and pull up a story, like the KSL, and look at it, and like, wow, I think that looks pretty interesting. I think that would be fun for he or she, to go try it. So
that's really neat if a parent hasn't come from that background either, to be able to have faith in you guys taking them out to do
their
something
kids
completely
hunting,
let alone
Yeah.
their kids. Is there like a success story of these kids going out and hunting after the fact without you that you've heard of? Or maybe like a success story?
Yes. Yeah. And that's one of the most rewarding things, is that they're the ones now that are going out and participating in hunting with their families and getting pictures of, of them back out and hunting. And right back on that exactly is the two twin girls. They 2 years ago, just recently, and they're so identical. One of them drew an antlerless antelope tag and got an antelope. Cool. And this year, she's got a San Juan elk tag.
Really?
And so they're out into big game hunting since all this is, taking place. And there's a lot of the other kids that now, they're out now with their families and participating in hunting, after the fact of being and going with us. So that's what we love. And think that, that's awesome. We these kids, I mean, they get fully decked out in King's camo. I mean, we provide them a shotgun or a rifle. I mean, it's theirs to keep. And that's what we want too. We want the parents or the child to stay involved in hunting and with their families and parents and go out there and do it. And so we provide them with all the equipment they need to go to keep doing it. And that's what we hope.
Yeah. It's more than just like an experience in
Yeah.
shooting a turkey. And that says a lot about you guys and what
Yeah.
you're setting them up to do, because it's crazy to think that it can start with something as simple as them going to a fishing day with
Yeah.
their class that like
Yeah.
they didn't know. And now the next thing they know, they're putting in for big game hunts and they have the confidence to be like, let's go. That's something really special.
Yeah. That's
Do you guys have like a little community of your kids that have they got to know each other through all
yeah.
this too?
So once we launched all this and started out on our own is back in the day we used to, we'd have this sports fish and wildlife fundraiser banquets, and this is where we'd bring the kids and introduce them, and then the kids that are coming for the next upcoming hunt, and the kids from last year, and would present them with their turkeys mounted and everything. And so now on our own out there is in March. Now we've had our second annual, we've had two social dinners.
Okay.
And so what I wanted to do is out doing that is it not be a social dinner where the families of these kids and the kids get to come to a dinner. And then, so last year, them kids get their turkeys that they got all mounted, and they've never seen them. And so they get them there.
And
then,
you mount their turkeys.
yeah, we get their turkeys full mounted for them.
Oh.
And so we have this little social dinner every March, and they get to come to it, and they get to meet the new kids that are coming, the families that are coming in, and the kids that got their turkeys last year. And so in March, I mean, that means they're going to go turkey hunting within a month.
And I'll bet those kids are just
yeah.
like,
So they get to
whoa.
see all these kids with their turkeys, and we're going, and so they get to go over and talk with them and associate, and so that was one of the things I was so happy to do was I didn't want it to be a fundraiser / auction and all this. I just wanted it to be a family social dinner, bring some of our great people that have helped us out financially, donations and money, invite them there, and just, we're not having a silent auction or not. It's just, we're just there as a social dinner to say, introduce everybody, watch the highlight reel of the kids shooting their turkeys, and then come up and introduce the other kids, and first year we done it, we presented one of the young boys there with a track chair for him, donated, that we got for him to give to him, this young man that needed one, and we got him a track chair and donated it to him, and so that's just, so yeah, we have a little community that, and it's awesome because it's just been amazing. And we've had two kids. I took a young girl, 3 years ago, Emma, and she was in a tragic car accident with her dad and got her spinal broke at 10, so she's become disabled from here down. And I took her turkey hunting, and man, it just changed her life. She had gotten that dark spot, and down and out. We took her on that turkey hunt, man, it just lifted her spirits. And so they've moved down to Florida to take her to the specialized physical therapy and treatment and some stem cell research and stuff that they're experimenting with her and doing. And so lo and behold, this year we had taken a young gal, Kinley, that spinal injury, weightlifting, spinal injury. And then Carter from Bernal, he was injured on an ATV accident and spinal injury. And so I told these parents, I says, I'd love for you to reach out to Emma's family.
Mm.
Like, oh, that's weird. I don't. And I says, no, that's, they want to thank me. And I don't know how to, this
Yeah.
is how that you can do that to thank me.
Mm.
And so it's been amazing. And so Emma's now become great friends with Kinley and their families and on treatments for the spinal injuries.
Oh.
And they went down and got stem cell, the stuff for Kinley that that Emma's getting. And then Carter's family reached out and they got Carter in for stem cell. And now they're all sharing, collaborating together about trying to help these children possibly recover from these spinal injuries.
Wow.
And so it creates,
It does.
it's amazing how, we create these little networks of
Yeah.
family, because I say all these families and kids, they're all my family, they're all special to me. And
Yeah.
so
You care.
it's neat to do those type of things, and they're so happy to, we've taken their child and been out, and then, they say, hey, we've been out with Mike, Big Mike. And I'm like, oh, wow. And they, right then you just say
They know.
that and they know,
Yeah.
they know the whole thing and what you've done. And so, they call up and say, hey, could we, could we, help out? And, they, of course they want to help out, you got a child with a spinal injury, and it's so amazing. And it's just been so cool to see that happen. And it's just fun to see them come to our little dinner and hang out together and chase each other around in their chairs and track chairs and, become friends. And it's really neat to see them do that. And, just be in touch with these families and be, friends and get invited to their graduations and weddings. And,
Wow. That kind of stuff goes a long ways too, as far as like having a community with people that know where you are, or how you felt, and how to navigate that.
yeah.
And for the kids to have a buddy that understands that. And I know you had told me that you guys are starting to do kind of like days for the family too, so that they can have that.
Yeah. So, and when we started all this and taking the kids, turkey hunting, we just kind of talked about that a little bit, taking the whole family, 5, people out. You just like, you can't get everybody turkey hunting, deer hunting, we can take everybody, can set the car in glass, and the turkey hunting's a whole different animal. So when in the process, when we come up with these kids and we say, we'd like to give you a fully guided turkey hunt and a fully guided fishing trip to Strawberry. Well, that's what we're going to do here on June 27th is we're taking the families up to Strawberry for a day of just for the family, And now, the kids that we've taken to, they're coming, and it's, it's for them, but this is for the family and the siblings and the kids and the brothers, the moms and dads to come and kick back and catch a fish, and the kids that weren't there and didn't get to go turkey hunting, because I'm sure that, they sit and say, oh, their feelings, they're okay with so-and-so getting that, and no, they're not. They can say that, but, I've been around this a long time, and there's always, there's siblings, there's another brother, there's a sister or something like that. And so when there's one of these childs that's special needs, and they take a lot of care and a lot of attention, and their parents, and it's tough and challenging, and so that we created this, go to Strawberry and go fishing, was to take that whole family out there and have a day to relax and catch fish. And, we sure the kids are going to catch fish, but we want mom and dad, and especially those little brothers and sisters, to, make sure they catch a fish and enjoy the day and feel like that day was for them too. It's kind of their day. So
I think that's one of the things that I truly appreciate the more I get to know you and your story, is that you're really in it for the right reasons. And it goes so much more beyond just like taking that kid turkey hunting. It's so much deeper than that. And then you're also looking out for that family and the other siblings. Your heart's just so big with it all.
it's way too big. Like I say, I would take, I would take every kid on that shoreline if I could, and and I guess for me saying that is because I've just been so fortunate and blessed to go out and do this, and be able to do this and go do it with these kids and then make this relationship with these kids and families, and it's just, there's just no price that, you can't put words in to describe it, what it is, to go and see these kids go do things that you'd never dreamed that you ever could go do, you just,
Yeah.
you just can't put words to it, and so this is to be a part of it's just unbelievable.
I feel lucky just to hear the stories that you've told me. Obviously, there's like, you got to put a cutoff somewhere and you can't take everyone, even though I
Yeah,
know you would love to.
I'd love to.
What's been the hardest part of running KWD?
Well, the biggest challenge is, I guess, one of them is just it takes a lot of time to coordinate all this. It takes, number one is getting them, I guess, the hunter's education and getting through that part. That's one of the biggest, is making sure, that we can get them through hunter safety, get them through the shooting. That's probably the number one. But then now it's pretty easy, in technology, you can shoot a text out to every,
Yeah.
and it's a massive thing to coordinate, 5 turkey hens, 5 different situations, and 5, we had, like this year we had two kids going to Wallsburg, 2 kids going to Howell Creek, and 1 to Vernal.
Trying to coordinate that everywhere.
So coordinating who's guiding where, who's, and then days prior to, and that's the thing, is I'm just so fortunate to have the awesome guys and crew that's just so willing to help and just take time off and sacrifice time from family and whatever, and work or whatever need be to come and, take the time to go set up these blinds and set up and do this and put everything, and shooting and taking target practicing. And so, it just takes a lot of organization. But when you have surrounded by a lot of good people, which I am, it's pretty, like this year, like 2 years ago when I first we ended up with 6 kids, and everybody's like, "Oh, Mike, 4 was tough, and now you're doing 6." I'm like, I know, and then I told her, like, I swear I won't do 6, and then I ended up doing 6 because I just cannot say no. When they call up and say, "Hey, could you?" And so it takes an army, and I have that with my guys and my board of directors and my people who serve with KWD, and I can call any of them at a drop of the hat, and they'll just help out, and what's easy, it's great is, you have everybody, it's crazy, shooting out a text, "Hey, we're doing this on this and this day, can you please help set up, do this," or, "Hey, we're shooting target practicing and I need this." And so rolling into the second year on our own KWD and all that, now I'd say it's getting easier, more fluent, to put it together. Then it just takes a lot of organization and a lot of time.
Yeah, I can only imagine, especially as I hear, like, starts with fishing, ends with this.
Yeah.
But it's an all year round thing. It's
Yeah,
not
it's
just...
never, yeah, it's okay, because you start out at, I guess if you just said the starting point is like the fishing day for Salem, and then you roll, I don't know that. I mean, you find the kids and then, get all that established and then get ready for, turkey hunting and then doing the Christmas with them all, and then scheduling the deer hunting, or hunts, fall hunts, deer hunts, and all that, and then taxidermy, and then our social dinner in March. I mean, it just keeps going. Yeah. So it's kind of, it's like June, heck, it's next Friday. I mean, we're taking all the families to Strawberry, and it's a huge, I mean, having the right people, all my guys like Scott Wolfenden and Corey Baker and all these guys, making sure the boats are facilitated and boats and who's going in each boat. And so it makes an enjoyable day for the family. And again, it's volunteers and people,
Yeah.
donating time and donating, Strawberry Bay Marina, donating boats and guides and making sure we have enough equipment there to take all these families fishing.
It seems like too in your story, like something always kind of falls into place. It almost feels like I'm sure you've had your challenges.
Yeah, and we always, I think it's always my brother, but they always say there's always someone looking over us.
I would say, like the big man's pretty happy with what you're doing because it seems like you guys always have someone's
always looking over because we talk about success, and we've been successful with all the turkeys and kids and fishing and catching fish and catching fish at Salem and and we always get said that someone's always looking over us and these kids to make sure that it happens.
Yeah. Is there a specific challenge that stands out to you that you were like, I don't know how the hell I'm going to figure this out, and then something clicked into place? Or are there a lot of those too?
Last year was, oh Lord, we ended up with all those. When we ended up for our first year with 6 kids turkey hunting, it was, because you're trying to coordinate the families and when they can go and the dates and the times and when to be there, and the day starting at 4:30 a.m., and meet us here and then can you meet us here and you meet us here in Provo and you guys meet us here in Springville and so that gets real challenging, and then again, we've taken kids up and had medical conditions, from having a seizure and stuff and having to go home early and things like that, and so yeah, it gets crazy. But again, all of a sudden someone just looks over us and it happens.
Do you feel like over time doing it because of that you've gotten a little, do you feel like you're pretty easygoing with it? Yeah. That patience is coming back in.
My patience and my best friend Don Willis, Willie, he always tells his favorite, don't worry, bud. Quit worrying. You worry too much. It's always going to happen. Quit worrying. And I said, well, I have to be the one that worries. He says, I know. That's why I don't worry, because you do double. I said, I know. And you joke about it, but he always tells you, quit worrying. It's always going to happen. And so he's always ringing in my ear, telling me that all the time. Quit worrying. It's going to happen.
And it does.
Because I literally have panic attack. Like literally. Because
there's a lot on your shoulders.
There's a lot on my shoulders, especially wanting the hunt to be successful, safe. That's, safe. And no one gets hurt and everybody's safe and having fun and staying warm and, just, and again, I got the best guys in the world that make it all happen. I can just call them at the drop of a hat. Hey, stop by Sportsman's. We need 2 more heaters. And 2 seconds later, it's done, And so, yeah, it's getting, and I'm hopefully getting better at tasking people, because I'm the one that I like to just be in control. But now I've got these people, these guys, you just trust them. They can do, and they'll do anything for you, and you can, do this, take care of this. And, just like the fishing day, Scott takes care of the fishing day. Wow. And I just branched off and, and somebody comes up and says, what do you want me to do? What can I do to help? Take care of this part.
Yeah.
That would help me tremendously. Take care of that part, And so it's getting better and more fluent and easier as time, as it's going. And so, yeah, it's good.
That is good. It's a good thing to learn, huh? It's hard, but it's because you care so much. That's why.
Thank you for saying that. And I think that's what it is. And that's, I guess I need to tell that to Willie, it's because I do care so much, and you just worry yourself to death.
Mhm.
Like literally in the early days of that fishing days in Salem, when it grew so big, I literally couldn't sleep for days because I would
Mm.
think no one's going to show up for volunteers,
Mm.
and you're going to have 15 kids standing there, and you're trying to help all of them,
Mhm.
with because I mean you've seen,
Yeah.
and
There was
how many I mean you've seen there was an
lo-
ample amount of
yeah,
and great amount of volunteers,
there
right?
was.
Well, I can remember the early days when we were doing this. I mean, I'd literally have 10 to 15 kids on the shoreline of Payson Lake.
Oh.
And this is full on fishing, tie the hook and fishing.
And fishing.
It ain't like the magic fishing at
Yeah.
Salem Pond. This was fishing.
Oh goodness.
And yeah,
Yeah, especially at that added element. Lines getting
yeah. And
stuck
you get
and
one thing and the next cast goes down and
yeah,
drags in all six. And
just running all over the
yeah.
place.
So I can just, and then I could just always remember this, always just panicking, worrying about, there's just, you're going to have all these kids and you're trying to do everything for them, make it, again, you're trying to make it successful and catch
Hmm.
fish. And so,
Are there any more dreams or expansion that you're hoping to achieve in the future?
yeah, right now, I want to keep it growing. I want it
Mm-hmm.
to where, again, we're all volunteers. None of us are paid. We do this on our own thing and through donations and money. And I want it to grow. My goal is to, you know, 4 to 6 turkey hunts for the kids. In fact, and then the guided fishing trips to Strawberry, 4 or 5, big game hunts. We're branching off this year. We got a young boy that's going to go on a waterfowl hunt.
Cool.
So I'm trying to diversify out into other different things, because
Mm-hmm.
it's great. You don't need to take every kid turkey,
Yeah.
just a day fishing or something, just, like a guided fishing trip to Strawberry or something,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're trying, my goal is to, do 4 to 6 turkey hunts, 4 or 5 big game hunts, and then just any other things that take and go do,
Outdoors.
outdoors,
Mm-hmm.
whether we just take kids camping,
Yeah.
so things like that, camping, or just that's that's where I'd like, I don't want it to get so big that it becomes so overwhelming that it's a grind and I just say, oh my, you went way too far,
Mm.
so I've kind of made a pact with myself and with Willie and that and I want it just, I love it where it's at. I love the board, who we got now and establishing the board of directors and where we're going with everything and the people, that are, and all these guys are, individuals are getting their own, picking kids and getting kids and facilitating the hunt, and that's what I want. And that's what I love is my cast of crew. These guys are awesome. They're doing that. They're finding kids and getting kids and putting together hunts and finding the kids, and so we want it to be, like that, to where we can do as many as we physically can, financially can. We don't want to tell anybody no. But again, like we say, like we got the application page and now we can kind of go through it and it said, they can pick hunting,
Mm.
fish, turkey, deer, fishing. They can kind of pick and tell us what they're looking, what they're after.
Mm-hmm.
And that's been phenomenal because that, and then that gives us that, that we can find a Pacific, hunt, whether it be deer or whatever, or a waterfowl hunt,
Yeah.
and say, would you be interested? We could take you duck hunting in November, December, later, so we're not swamped in April and May, because us, all the guys want to go out and take their grandkids, and I want to take my grandkids turkey
Mm-hmm.
hunting,
Yeah.
and so uh, we're just trying to, keep it to where it doesn't, nobody gets burnt out or, overwhelmed with
Mm-hmm.
it all.
I
That's,
like that. Well, and it too, it's going back to care. I'm sure from what I'm gathering, you want to be able to still stay connected within it. It doesn't get so outside of the
yeah,
fact that you don't know
yeah,
who the kids are and have that
yeah.
connection
And
with it all too to help.
that's, that's, I'd have never thought that, when I, being separated and, different, it's crazy because now you got Waylon in a blind helping, and Don's in one and my brother's in one and, all these people and Scott and these other guys and it's like, I know, because I've always been the one when I first, it's always been me, me and their guiding, calling,
Yeah.
putting it all, and now it's awesome to, say, okay, and that's where it rolls back to, like, Waylon's asked an individual and Waylon, that's one Waylon, and I've asked an individual. And so that's the one who I see through and,
Oh, cool.
but everybody's there to help, no matter what it is, everybody's there to help, whether it's come to the target practicing. It's amazing. Our guys, come down and all of them down there helping us with these kids in target practicing and shooting guns and helping them with their guns and teaching them the skills.
Well, I personally really love the idea of like camping too. I think that could be really cool. Because
Yeah.
I just know watching my kids camp, even. It's amazing
Yeah.
just letting them outdoors, let them build a fort and get dirty. What
Yeah.
that does.
And I said this in the early get go, and I guess this will be one I will throw out there as a dream. I've even looked online and that. I mean, things of now with kids with special needs, with the stuff that's out there for them,
Mm-hmm.
being track chairs and all these different chairs and tricycles and little forks that are powered that they can put on these chairs that pull a motor right, just
Mm.
all the different things that have come out there. And I've looked in there and I've seen these ADA trailers. I mean, they
Oh,
have full on tongue pull ADA trailers that are ADA for,
yeah.
and, and I said that in the early get go when we were setting goals of where
Yeah.
we want to be financially and money and what we thought it would take to run as an organization. And and that was one of the things that I actually had on my list is I thought it would be so cool to own a trailer that's ADA accessible,
Mm-hmm.
to say, would you love to go camping?
Mm-hmm.
And, if they don't have the resources, truck or, things, is like, let us take you up and we'll set you in a place where you can get your van, and take you up and let the kids get dirty.
Yeah.
Take the track chair and go up and camp and have fun and be able to go up in and have a restroom and things and go
Right.
camping and, campfire and s'more,
Yeah.
And so that would probably be down the road, if I financially come across
Yeah.
and could do that, that would be something I'd like to go into partnership with like Compassion Mobility or something, have a trailer, a recreation trailer that would be accessible for these kids and their families to take, they could take and use via, we'd own it or whatnot and let them take it and we'd be, help them out or whatever. Because it's so funny is that's what a lot of the kids talk about the most. Love it. They camping and wanting to go out and go camping.
Mm-hmm.
And so I've seen that with other kids and individuals, how hard it is to take kids that are in chairs and things to go take them camping,
Mm-hmm.
you know, restroom wise and all that. It's
Difficult.
difficult.
I think that was, and you kind of told me, you're like, I think this is going to be your biggest takeaway from the fishing day. And for Cooper too, because my oldest went, he got to go help out and volunteer. And I did a few different interviews, like I told you, at there, and I ended up interviewing Cooper, and that's what he said. And both of us said that you don't realize the things that we go and do all the time that
Yeah.
seem so simple that we take for granted, and something like camping as well.
Camping and, you know, just a kid catching a fish at Salem, a kid that's never caught a fish,
Mm-hmm.
that's to go and help a child that's, special needs, that go and take them down to the pond and help them tie a hook and help them catch a fish and reel it
Mm-hmm.
in, teach them skills, teach them the whole thing,
Yeah.
If they want to cook it, show them how to clean it and prep it and do it right. Make it, don't just throw it in a bag and throw it away. I mean, teach them the whole thing. I mean, these kids are just like a sponge. I found out that you can teach these kids and tell them things and they never forget. I mean, you can talk to them in the guns and about safety and the triggers and all that. And I tell you, when it's amazing, they understand and they know. They just absorb all this information that you give them.
Mm-hmm.
They love it.
Yeah. Yeah, it is incredible what they can catch on to. And yeah, just as something as simple as, like I said, going fishing, it's amazing. Something that, Coops used to just go drop me off, Mom, I'm going to go do it. And la di da di da. And now he's sitting there and he's like, wow, like,
Yeah,
that's pretty cool to share that with someone else and
yeah,
answer questions that he's only 14, but things
yeah,
that, like you're saying, absorbed. And then he says, listening to get told back to him
yeah,
because he kind of taught somebody something. And that was
yeah. That's
a
good
neat
for
experience.
it's good for him to go see that and do that and learn that these kids are no different than him, and
Mm-hmm.
learn to be respectful of them. That hey,
Yes.
they might have a disability, but they don't wake up every day and say, I hope I go to school and get tormented.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to be just like them. They
Yeah.
might be in a wheelchair. They might be, you know, whatever it is. They just want to be treated like every day. That's it.
Mm-hmm.
And when you go give them that, holy, it changes their life. I mean, that's all they want. They want they want companionship and people they trust and people that are not going to bully them and tease them every second of their life, to tease them about their disability. And so that's awesome. Like my grandkids and your boys and these kids that come there to learn that, these kids are awesome and they're so thankful. Man, they tell you thank you
Mm-hmm.
and hug you and tell you they love you. They love you
Yeah.
and they mean it. They don't just say it to say it. They tell you thank you and I love you. They mean it. They truly mean it. And that's what, that's all they want. They
Yeah.
just want to be treated as normal as can be. And man, we've taken kids that you'd have never in a million years thought they could go out, shoot a wild turkey. And we make it happen.
Yeah.
Kids that are just in predict, and chair with, just you would never think it would happen, and we go make it happen, and it just changes their attitude and their life. It's there's a hundred stories. I gotta write an autobiography,
Yeah, you
and if I
do.
don't get started, because I just it goes so fast, and you
Mm-hmm.
do, and then you forget, and the next year you take this many and take this many, and to remember back and all the little things to remember all those little memorable stories.
Mm-hmm. Do you journal? You should journal
I
after
know.
each one. Just to like get stuff going.
Yeah,
There
I
you go.
need
This
to.
year, a hunting journal for
I
Mike
need
is what
to.
he needs to do. How can people support and get involved? I'm sure there's some people wondering at this point.
They can, like, again, if they want to get involved and help us out, and they can jump on our website, kwdadventures.org, and go to our website and look at our past stories. There's a donation page there to donate. Again, all these things take money to make things happen. I mean, that's just life, and it takes
Mm-hmm.
money to do these things. Uh, we're looking. You know, we'd love to have people help us out with finding, properties, or things where we can take kids on private property to do a special deer hunt, or you know maybe a private pond or a lake, or somebody that take a kid fishing on a private pond, things like that, or one of the greatest thing and is this mentor program, to where guy put in, just like me,
Mm-hmm.
your whole life, 28 moose points, and I draw it, which I'm mentoring mine to my grandson. But I mentored my antelope tag. I had 10 points, and I mentored it to one of these young gals that I took turkey hunting, and I gave her my antelope tag. So if you're thinking, man, I waited my whole life and I drew my elk tag or I drew my deer tag, and I'm really not that interested, consider mentoring it. Love to see you mentor it to your grandchild. But if you don't have anybody in love to mentor a deer tag or a tag to one of these children, we'd love to help put it together. I mean,
That's
we
awesome.
had an individual that drew his desert sheep tag, and I got the phone call and they said, "Do you have one of your children in your thing that you would nominate, that of, that you would nominate, and I will give my desert sheep tag to that individual." And I said, "I guarantee I know right offhand." And he donated, he mentored and gave his desert sheep tag to one of our young kids that was in a chair and has Daishun, and gave him a sheep tag, and we went down and made it happen and successful and got a young boy a desert sheep tag. So
Cool.
don't ever say never. I mean,
Yeah.
so
That's amazing. And that's a great way to get involved too, because you then get to be a part of
yeah, you
it.
get it's your thing when you look. I mean, you get a come, you get a pack rifle,
Yeah.
you get to be on the hunt and watch the individual you shoot it.
Yeah.
And
And be able to truly mentor
trail
too.
mentor, yeah.
Yeah. Be able to
So
teach some things and be a part of that experience.
yeah, so we're looking for that. Anybody allow special needs kids to come on private property to maybe do a deer hunt or something would be awesome. And donation financially. I mean, it takes money.
Mm-hmm.
It takes money to do all these things, and love to have it. Our annual fishing day is always the second Tuesday of May, no matter what.
Got
And
it.
8 a.m. on the second Tuesday of May, come to Salem Pond and witness seeing 1,500 kids with special needs fishing.
It is something else.
Love to have you there, be a volunteer, be a part of it. We're looking for corporations, businesses that want to help out, that want to, possibly be a sponsor,
Mm-hmm.
to sponsor some of our stuff, sponsor guns or, anything. We've been fortunate. We've been fundraising and doing these kids, and some of these kids that really could use, we've been providing these action track chairs, these outdoor track chairs that get them out in the outdoors in the mud and the snow and all that. And we've been, raising, that's one of our goals is, if needed in the family and there's the individual that's, could utilize it and use it, our goal is to provide one of them a year to individuals, and they're 15,500. And so we've been trying to find, again, a business corporation that would want to maybe possibly sponsor, do one of these track chairs a year, to one of these, as needed as an individual that could take it. And, we want them to go to the right individual and again, back to the to use it and go out and use it and go camping. And, you don't want to, of course, put out, give a track chair to some, and park it in the garage and
Yeah, just
maybe going to use it,
Right.
Most of these kids we've used, I mean, they take them, they use them.
They're
That's
like,
awesome.
where can I take this
Yeah,
thing?
they go climbing hills and go, but anyway, so yeah, that's anything, again, anything is appreciated.
Mm-hmm. And that's Kids With Disabilities Adventures.org.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect. And I'll put that in the show notes so that if they need, they can just click on it through the podcast or YouTube. Are you down to play like a little short game? It's kind of like quick answers. Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Kind of end it off on a little fun note on get to know you a little more, I guess. So, questions for you. Are you a morning on the water or an evening in the woods kind of a guy?
Morning on the water.
Morning on the water. What are you doing? Fishing? Yeah. Nice. Dream outdoor adventure spot. Where do you want to go?
Where do I want to go?
Yeah. Dream adventure spot.
New Zealand.
Ooh, I would love that too. Are you hiking to the top and hunting?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that, the fishing there is phenomenal.
Is it?
They have brown fishing on them rivers.
Yeah.
That's
cool.
I see those, them open fence not high fence, stag hunts, them red stags.
Yeah.
Big, that'd be.
That would be neat. That's
That'd
what
be
I want to
cool.
do too.
Yeah.
Those are cool. I don't know why I didn't think like fishing in New Zealand, but that shows. Yeah.
Yeah.
You can do it both.
Yeah.
That's sweet. I actually had someone from New Zealand on the podcast at like the very beginning. Mm-hmm.
Oh, wow.
Pretty cool, huh? Are you like a coffee on the boat or a jerky in the blind kind of a guy?
Coffee on the boat.
Yeah. On the pontoon.
Oh, yeah. Sounds
like a good time. You sound like my kind of guy. Like coffee, morning.
Yeah. It's going to be coffee my day. It's no matter where we're at. That is number one priority.
Same. Yeah. Like, why would you not? Is it just black coffee?
No, I'm a little girl.
Are you? What's your white girl order?
I have to have sweet and low and hazelnut coffee mate creamer.
Yeah, every morning.
Yeah.
I like it. That's good. Little stir.
Yeah.
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 Hey, coffee on the boat, even if it's got all that in it, that's okay. One piece of gear you will always pack with you.
Knife.
Smart. Yeah, that's a good one. What trick do you have for taking kids hunting?
What trick?
Yeah.
Make it fun.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Make it fun.
Which means you're going to need a little bit of patience, huh?
Yeah, you got to be patient, but make it fun for them. Because if you don't make it fun, they don't want to go.
Yeah.
So.
Are there specific things you do to ensure that it's fun? Mine's like make sure there's snacks. Like you don't want a hungry kid, right?
You can come to Grandpa's backpack and he's got everything in there. Candy bars and yeah. Make it fun. Snacks, treats, and don't hike the living daylights out of them.
Mm-hmm.
Just make it enjoyable and let them have stick fights and just make it fun. That it, not scream at them. Shh, be quiet. Just let them be kids and have fun.
I love that. I think that's important to remember. Speaking of snacks, what's your go-to snacks for the kids? Or grandpa, it sounds like. You're just one big kid.
Everybody knows when it's 10 a.m., Big Mike's going to have a Coke and a Snickers. No matter what, when and where. I can be in Mexico. I can be in Canada, and I can tell you when it's 10 a.m. because I'm going to have a Coke and a Snickers. And that's just what it is.
Do you prefer canned or bottled Coke?
Bottled.
Yeah. The best. So you just hear the like,
yeah, gotta have
in the blind.
Yeah. Gotta,
nice and slow.
Yeah.
I hear you make some of the best fish after fishing all day out on the lake. We have friend Sherry who does not like fish, and I've heard several times about how damn good Mike's fish is that he made.
I can.
Can you share that recipe, or is it
no? I can. It's so if you go to Sudbury and you catch, some nice good rainbows, or the kokanee is phenomenal too. But we'll just say rainbows.
Okay.
So you catch rainbows.
Right.
The number one, take care of them, keep them cold, keep them in a cooler.
Okay.
Take them back, and learn to fillet them. That's number one. You can't go back to the old school like I grew up, wrap them in tin foil.
Yeah.
With their head,
No.
and all the skin. So fillet them.
Okay.
And that means, and I could show you, fillet it, lay it down on the fillet, and then take the fillet knife and take the skin off.
Okay.
So there's no bones. So fillet it.
Okay.
Rinse them good and clean, rinse it up. I just take a tin foil, the big extra large tin, and basically make a cookie sheet out of tin foil. Fold the edges.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then I take olive oil on the bottom, or coat the 2 sheets of tin foil made into a cookie sheet. Just coat it with, so there's olive oil. And then I put the skin side that you filleted off down. So the dark, down.
Mm-hmm.
I take a cube of butter, melt it in the microwave. Okay. Brush the fillet, cover it in butter. and then take that McCormick, California lemon pepper,
Oh, yum.
coat them. Don't go crazy because it's potent. I mean, just lightly
Okay.
coat it, and then take regular red salt, Morton seasonal salt,
Mm-hmm.
light, same thing. Cover it, lightly. Don't go crazy. Coat them. Get your grill 400. Put it in your grill, and then just let them go.
Okay.
You don't need to turn them or nothing. Just let it go about 10 to 12 minutes.
And you're not covering it.
Don't cover
Okay.
it. No, don't cover it. Just let it cook.
Okay.
Now, my wife and a lot of people like it a little more done than just normal. Because when fish is done, you just take a fork and push it. And if it flakes away, it's done.
Okay.
That's how you tell fish is done.
Yeah.
Everybody kind of likes it more done. So it's a little more crisp.
Okay.
So you can get it till, just make sure it's done. If it flakes away,
You're
it's
good
done.
to go.
But if you like it, just let it crisp a little more.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't need to turn it. Don't need to flip it. Just let it 400 and it'll be 12, 15 minutes. Okay. Take them off. If you like tartar sauce, you can either buy it at the store where my wife makes a wonderful and just hand makes, mayo, pickle, makes her own little tartar sauce.
Yum.
Little on the side, you don't need to cut, but the fish itself without the tartar is just phenomenal. I mean, you'll go from, I literally, before I learned to fillet, I would never keep a trout.
Yeah.
Like literally.
Yeah. You're like,
I just go to Strawberry. We'd catch 80 fish and
put them back all day.
Yeah. Once I learned how to fillet them correctly and get all that bone off and get that skin off, and that's the number. You get that skin, that's where all
the oils
that
and the
yuck
fishy.
that yuck taste comes from, is the skin.
Yeah.
So just fillet them. And again, you can buy a $20 fillet knife or you can buy a $100 one. And I spent $100. I bought the 9-inch one, Cutco, top of the line. And it cuts like and you can, it has so much flex, you can lay it down and cut that skin right off, just like paper.
Oh, yeah.
And so it gets the skin off. And that's where all that yuck taste comes from. That crap taste comes from there. But once you cook it correctly, I
was shocked to hear. I love you, Sherry, if you're listening. But I was shocked to hear her. I'm like, this must be good fish.
Yeah. I mean, my parents ran the little marina up to Aspen Grove up Strawberry on the Soldier Creek side for 10 years. They had this, all these people that were there at the marina that were the rental people the people that owned the slips, that rented the slips. They'd stay there. I mean, every weekend. Most of them, they're like, we don't eat fish. They say, shit. Yeah. And so I do this fish fry all the time. And these people are like, holy shit. And they love,
Yeah.
And one year they wanted me. They have this huge 4th of July celebration up there. That they wanted me to do fish for the whole thing. I'm
oh
like,
my gosh. Shit. Yeah.
Are you serious? Like, no, that'd be so cool to do fish. And I'm like, oh. So, yeah, I mean, it's funny because girls, ladies, they like, because they've had,
yeah.
And it's so crazy how many people, including my own daughters, my own sister-in-law, and all these people that are like, holy shit, it's amazing. And it is. It's good.
Oh, I appreciate you sharing that with us because I have been thinking about that since she said that. And then I was like, oh, I'm getting Mike and I'm going to selfishly ask this question. But I do know so many people feel the same way, like you said.
It's never been done right.
Yeah.
I grew up the same way. We catch it with the whole thing.
And you throw some lemons in and wrap it in aluminum foil.
And try to pull all the bones off. And it's like gross.
I agree with the filleting thing though, because Cooper did last year found good old YouTube, right? And I'm like, oh, it worked out great. Cause he filleted it and showed Cody's like, how in the hell did you? He's like, dude, that's awesome. Yeah. Cause if you can fillet it and get the bones out and it's easy, it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. Huge. And then so, again, too, if you catch them, and, most boats have a live well, that's awesome. If they don't, put them I like to put them in a cooler on ice. I
Mm.
take a cooler right out there and I put them right in ice.
Okay.
So they're good, cold, good.
Fresh, yeah.
And then as soon as I get them back to the, camp, take them right there. I get a flay board or these different flay. They got flay tables and stuff, but flame, just get it done and did quick,
Okay.
And I like, if you can do it that night, that day, when they say fresh,
right.
it means
fresh.
it's a big difference.
Okay.
Like right then and there, fresh is phenomenal.
That's awesome. Well, I appreciate you sharing, because I am definitely going to try, because I am now like, I was joking the other day. I'm like, I need to make up some business about being like a fishing Uber for kids, because I feel like that's currently my job anyways.
Yeah, take them to ponds.
Is I just drive them from pond to pond.
Yeah.
So now when we get all these fish, I'm like, all right, we're going to try Mike's recipe. It sounds pretty delicious.
It is. It's amazing.
And the homemade tartar sauce, that's a good idea too. That's easy too.
It's simple.
You forget that.
Yeah. It's simple and easy. And you can cut some lemon wedges and give it a little bit. But that McCormick, California, they got one that's like it's called California style lemon pepper.
Mm-hmm.
And you don't want to go crazy with it. It's got enough seed that you don't go like crazy with it, because it's got a lot of good flavor. And just the fish itself with no tart is just amazing.
Just so good.
Just a little shot of lemon is just amazing.
Yum. Oh, yum. Now I'm getting hungry. With that, where can everybody find you and your adventures?
So
anything to look forward to? I feel like we're gonna have to have you come back on
after
in the fall or something.
We'll love to come back.
Share some stories.
You can follow KWD. We're on Instagram. We share all our stories hunts on our Instagram. Again, you can go to our website and check out our stories, and there's some stories there, and look at our website. Love to make a donation. It's simple and easy. You can do it. Get a receipt, tax deductible.
Mm-hmm.
My cell number's on the webpage. You can reach me. Email. There's an email. I got an email on there for my email account. Just me personally, you can email me, or I have my own cell numbers right there. If you want to reach out, contact, you can call me anytime. Give me a call if you're interested and talk more about anything with KWD. Yeah,
and I'll put that all in the show notes so it'll be easier for them to get to and access. I appreciate you taking the time to come on. It was fun to get to hear all the stories, because I loved our phone call conversation, just getting to hear that. And the connection is really cool. And I really love what you guys are doing. I think it's special, because I say it all the time. There's something incredible about the outdoors and what it provides, not just for yourself and what the lessons you learn along the way, but to be able to get out as a family is something really incredible. So I think it's awesome what you're doing. Keep on keeping on, Mike.
I appreciate it. Thank you for having me on. It's been awesome, and love to do it again. We'll talk some more and tell you. I'll try to rack my brain and write some of these great stories. I knew you were going to ask what my favorite one was, and I guess that's a good thing. Not knowing,
I figured it would be hard to tell me, so that's good.
On the way over, I was like, I know you're going to ask that. And I was like, which one is? And there's just so many that are. Yeah. There really is.
I'm sure. And the lessons learned from each one is probably so individual too. So
you need to share a sad one, but
no, that's one that definitely, it sounds like, impacted you. And
because that was in the early on when we started taking the kids, and that one was tough for all of us. That was for my brother and all of us, and Adam, and because you got to go meet these families, and they're part of it.
I can't imagine, but it does sound like it did help shape what is KWD today. And what
I've always
doing.
Again, we've always knew where we wanted to be and what our passion, and so I'm just so thankful we got now our own platform, our own thing now.
It's doing awesome stuff, and I love your shirt too. Are you guys gonna be selling those?
Yeah, we got a swag store.
Oh, cool.
That we do on our thing. We do. You can get KWD merchandise.
Very cool, because I like that shirt, and it's like kind of like that soft athletic fabric.
Really, that stuff that not cotton that doesn't. Yeah, they're awesome.
My boys love those.
Got these this week, and for our upcoming
fishing for
Yeah, I was going to say
strawberry.
they look perfect for fishing.
Yeah,
Perfect. And like those early scouting trips too.
exactly.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike.
No, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah.